Have you ever wondered about the main differences between playing Phasmophobia on PC and playing it in VR? Did you ever want to try it out? Are you one of those people who instantly kick VR players out of the lobby the moment they join in? Or are you one of the people who get kicked? Well, if you answered yes on at least one of those questions, then this video is meant for you. I've had quite some fun time in Phasmophobia in the last 2 weeks since I purchased it on Steam, even though there are many details in the game that require further tuning and it's way far from being finished. There are many things it does right. VR support was an absolute necessity for a game of this type, however it comes with its own perks as well as downsides. I personally experienced most of the time in VR until the last few levels, which I tried out on keyboard and mouse just for comparison. The difference was huge. First of all, the level of immersion is somewhere completely else. While I wasn't originally able to play this in VR for prolonged periods of time, as the game literally played on my nerve fibers as strings in orchestra, behind every corner I pray that the ghost doesn't make an appearance or start hunting me down. I usually cut the mission to just gathering needed evidence and get the fuck out. In almost every case, I managed to escape before the ghost started the first hunt phase. Occasionally appearing ghosts, meant to just startle you, not harm you, were a huge issue in VR at the beginning, but after time it sank in and became less of an issue and way more manageable. When I switched to PC, just for the heck of it, I played only the big maps on professional solo to see if it can be just as startling and uncomfortable as in VR. The answer is no, it cannot. It cannot compare to VR in immersion at all. I caught myself yawning multiple times, and each time the ghost went on a hunt, I just felt disconnected from the game somehow. Whereas in VR, you don't stop paying attention to your surroundings, the ghost stomping outside the door, dark corners of the room you hide in. You stop breathing as the mic is located just above your nostrils and it might be heard by the ghost. Also, no matter where you look, you never let the door get outside your peripheral view, as chances are the ghost will just come through and you're definitely gonna see that, right? On PC, I just felt like alt-tabbing and reading something on Facebook until the hunt phase is over, so I can come out and continue the investigation. It's a huge difference. There is of course question of comfort when it comes to play in VR. Not everybody can take on long sessions in VR, especially in games where you can fluently move around with left stick. You should take breaks every half an hour, but that would mean taking break after every mission, which is just not right. So obviously you'll move on and then again and again until you start to feel nausea and your eyes will begin to complain. Also, standing this whole time on your feet doesn't help either. Of course, no one is making you, you can sit on the ground and rest a bit. In game, you'll just be crouching, which doesn't really affect much. I mean, for what it's worth, you could play while lying in your bed, the game doesn't care. It might seem that PC players hold an advantage in this manner, however, considering the long distances you have to walk in game, during which you'll keep holding W and your mouse static, it's not exactly a win either. Sure, you get to sit in your comfy chair, but your pose is gonna be somewhat static most of the time. When I was a total beginner, I often noticed being kicked out of sessions almost immediately after I joined in. I suspected it was because I was a low-level freak. However, I'm now level 30 and it still keeps happening. At first I thought maybe there's a bug in the room filtering and I joined private lobby, but no, the answer is far simpler. I had VR. You would think that in times like today, where racism is the most popular word next to Putin and Donald Trump, people will at least try to accept differences, but no, the world doesn't give a shit, and neither do Phasmophobia players. Especially for those people, I decided to make a list of pros and cons playing in VR and on PC. I realized that most of these people will never have a chance to experience the game in VR, and therefore they have no idea what advantages over PC playing in VR has. This, however, should let them in on some true facts that I hope will change the way they look at VR players, and perhaps they will become more accepting of them. VR pros. Number 1. Did you know you can have 4 items on you if you're playing in VR? Not just 3, but 4. That's right. The only drawback is you cannot open doors or turn on switches with both of your hands filled, but since you only need to open doors until you find the ghost room, and from there on it's really more about carrying items from van to the room, being able to carry more than others is actually quite handy. I personally like to carry 4 items. Even as I search for the room, I usually drop the camera somewhere in the main hall and proceed without it, knowing it's nearby. In case of the room discovery, I'll just circle back and grab it later. It beats the long journey all the way to the van every time. In case you really need to open doors with 4 items, you can always just drop one of them onto ground, open the doors and pick it up again. Of course, it's not very time efficient, but again, only an emergency. Otherwise, I advise to keep one hand free until you found the ghost room. Also, if you need to turn on the light and have your hands full, there is a useful trick you can do. Neat, right? Moving to number 2. No VR player will ever accidentally turn off his flashlight while shuffling through his inventory to find specific item. Even though they have 4 items on them, they won't have to shuffle at all because all of them are clearly visible and the player knows exactly how to equip which. On PC, there is no number binding, you can only use Q key to cycle in one direction. If you go over a flashlight and it was previously on, it's going to turn itself off for no reason. This could and probably will be easily fixed in upcoming updates, but right now it's one of those things VR players don't have to think about. Just take that flashlight, turn it on, place on the waist, and you're all set. Number 3. You can use 2 items at once. That is, for example, a thermometer and camera in case of ghost surprising appearance, or UV light and spirit thermometer, searching for 2 clues at one time. Effectively using both at the same time, PC players will never catch up to you. Not to mention the weird way they have to light smudge sticks. I mean, this whole thing makes much more sense in VR, where you actually light it up using the lighter instead of turning the lighter on separately, then switching to smudge sticks and pressing F. I mean, what? Who would have thought of that?
Huh. Did you know that's how it works?
Number 4. I know I said there is no sprint button in the previous video, and I was wrong. I just went through controls on PC and there actually is sprint button. Well, it's not exactly a sprint, it's more like a faster walk and it's about 120% of normal speed, so very noticeable. But yes, there is a sprint button in the game bound to the shift by default. The real question is, what is it for? Why is it not toggled on by default? I mean, what reason is there to not run? It's not like there's a stamina or something. There is no reason to let go of shift at any point in the game. Well, VR players don't have to worry about that, fortunately. They go as fast as much they're holding the stick in the direction of the movement. Of course, you need to go to VR settings in-game and set movement relative to headset, not the controller's position. If left unchecked, it will pick up the left controller's pitch and reduce the speed of movement accordingly. Number 5. Hey, PC players, can you do this? Now that's a proper multitask. You can check evidence as you make your way back to van to get more equipment. PC players have to stop to be able to input anything in journal or read about ghosts. VR players? Not so much. Of course, it's balanced by the navigating controls. VR players will somewhat struggle flipping pages on the go, but the road to van is long, so no big deal. And trust me, it will save you time. Number 6. Whatever you're holding, you are your own boss in terms of how much space it will take on your screen. Take video camera for example. On PC it occupies almost half of your screen, so you can barely see in front of you. In VR, it doesn't have to be visible at all. Of course, there is a bit of a downside too. For example, reading value from a thermometer at this distance can be difficult, and placing it close to your head with the display facing you is an achievement itself. You're sooner going to break your wrist. Number 7. Hey, PC players! Ever got tired of dropping Spirit Book and EMF Reader on ground so you can see its content and values and don't need to hold it in your hands, only to drop it down the wrong side? Has this happened multiple times in a row? Yes, it did? Did it ever happen to VR player? No, of course not. VR players has absolute control over how items will be placed, even when dropping them on the ground. Such a small thing, I know, but it makes a world of difference when you don't have time or light or ghost is hunting you. Number 8. VR players always have microphone, or in my experience they always do. I mean, if you cannot hear them, you're either missing headphones or they simply don't talk. You can't run into person without it. I'm mentioning this because I run into PC players that don't talk all the time. Now, I don't know how they use Spirit Box, frankly, or tell others what evidence they gathered, or where the ghost room is, but they somehow coexist in the population, so yeah. Now, let's talk about advantages PC players have over VR. Number 1. You don't get kicked from lobbies 2 seconds from joining in because you are a VR player, obviously. Number 2. You aim flashlight wherever you look. In VR, you can have it in your hand, but then it kinda occupies one hand, so more reasonable option is to have it on your waist, but then it doesn't pitch, it only follows your headset with a small delay in terms of yaw. Makes looking for bones on the ground and into sync a bit of a challenge. Number 3. You open and close doors much faster and with more control. I wouldn't say it's that vital, but sometimes you miss the handle 3 times in a row with a ghost behind your heels, and then it can be an issue, I admit. Number 4. Kinda mentioned already, you cannot lower your movement speed by looking up or down. You can with headset though. It doesn't happen often, but rarely it does. Number 5. You know exactly what will be on a photo, because you have a crosshair for camera. VR players have to kinda take a guess. Number 6. You don't get startled by anything, because immersion is too small, therefore you won't make as many mistakes. Number 7. Again, kinda mentioned already, you can interact with light switches and handles without clearing your hand, but since you have one less hand, it kinda cancels out, don't you think? So, number 7, one more time. You won't run out of controller's battery mid-game. Yeah, it happened to me once, then I felt like PC player because I was missing one hand. Number 8. Your eyes won't tire up that soon. Number 9. You won't witness disappearing and reappearing objects in the distance as you get closer. I'm assuming it's supposed to lower the stress on GPU, but it sometimes looks ridiculous, though it does add to the ghosty atmosphere. Ooh. Number 10. You can see tips during loading screens. Also, you can see progress. Number 11. Already mentioned, navigating through journal is faster, although it cannot be done while moving. Navigating through other menus is also faster, like buying new items on the mission, etc. Number 12. You have a hotkey for global comms. VR players need a free hand and reach behind left ear, but then again, you don't get that extra hand, so compensate it. That's it. The list is slightly longer for PC players, but I'll let you decide which items are a big deal and which are not. If I forgot something, VR players will forgive me. In my personal experience, game is better with VR, and I only play on PC when I'm too lazy to connect everything and turn it on. I hope this video sheds some light on VR players in Phasmophobia, and that PC players will think twice before kicking them out of lobby for no reason again. Signing out.